All right. While everyone is signing in, I'll go ahead and get some of the logistics out the way. And specifically, I'll introduce myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Dave. I am the Vice President here at Life Guides. Wonderful to have you here. This is our Thrive Time specific service for our member population, just to offer you an insight into how you can continue to thrive, how you can continue to grow, not only as a person, but just in all forms of your life. I do want to take a moment and introduce my panelists as well. Which I'm really excited. This is, I believe, our second time together with Sarah B. I know we've worked together in other capacities before, but I'm so happy that she's here. We also have Jenna. So first, let's start with Sarah. And in addition to being a certified life guide, Sarah is a laughter yoga and meditation leader. She's an artist and soon to be certified MEFT, which I was interested to learn more about. It means Modern Emotional Freedom Technique Tapping Practitioner. I just take a breath after that, but it's a lot to learn and it's a wonderful technique. I'm looking forward to learning more about that. Sarah serves others through compassionate, active listening and experiencing joy at the core. Though laughter yoga, is, and this is just my opinion adding in here, though laughing yoga is something new for people, I think it's something everyone should probably just have a go at it at least once. And she also has this light perspective on life, and she has this really dope ability to process trials and tribulations and turn them into joy. She's helped me with that as well. So I want to comment on that. So Sarah supports some of the areas, including relocation, well-being action plan, and nourishing the mind. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you for being here today. All right. And next, Jenna, thank you so much. Repping Life. God, see you got the swag on. I appreciate that. But this is again, look, we're already laughing. We haven't even gotten through intros. Um, so Gina is a Filipino American and native of San Diego. Shout out San Diego, as well as being a certified life guide. Gina is currently in transition and seeking out her next play. And with her ideal remote job being the idea, to date she has spent her corporate time supporting full stack people as a people consultant. She's also supported us here at Life Guides with writing. If you haven't read, one of her articles, please go and take a look at that. She's worked in our HR space too, providing us insight and consultation on how to improve our guides community. So I appreciate you there too. So Jenna is, as always, an emotional optimist. And this isn't far from the truth at all. This is absolutely the truth. She brings it every time, and she finds joy in lifting others up. So Jenna's areas of expertise includes supporting with divorce, breakup, relationships, overcoming self-doubt. So I just wanted to give everyone a little bit of insight to what our panelists are bringing here today so that we can jump in and just have a wonderful conversation. So first and foremost, let's call what's going on today. Happy Women's History Month and also International Women's Day. For me, I'll just start by saying that I'm a father's boy. I don't know if no one ever said that before, probably, but when I say father's boy, I mean my father was very stern and strong that I should always love and honor my mother. So whatever she says goes, whatever she wants you do, or you'll catch it. So I always think about how my father supported me in understanding the importance of embracing femininity and learning from both my mother and father on how to show up in the world. So I appreciate you. Hi, Mom. If you're ever watching this, thank you for being you. But I'd love to hear from you two about what Women's History Month and International Women's Day means to you.
So for me, I come from a huge Filipino family. And on my dad's side, his mother, my grandma, she was our matriarch. She was our queen. And she was a single mom, raised 7 kids on her own. And then from there, the 7 kids, my dad's siblings, we mostly was female. So I come from a female driven family. And then my own mom she's a baddie, she's a boss babe. And just these women between my grandma and my mom, we have them on a pedestal, and they are a queen. They run the show, but they do it with such grace. and warmth and generosity, and they do lead with heart that everyone just follows. And we just hold them up on the pedestal because they lead by example. And even my fellow female cousins, we're all just like female driven. We're a bunch of ambitious and from the role models of my grandma and my mom. And so we honor this day. I just light up and I celebrate every female and woman in my life, across all generations and across the globe internationally. So today's just amazing. I'm already just beaming, like my smile is just ear to ear.
I know my face is gonna hurt. Our prep is already full of smiles. For me, International Women's Day, it's like only in the last couple of years that it's really felt really special to me. As I was growing up, I like thought it was really cool to not cry and to like not have emotions like my dad. And as I like continued to grow up and continued to get older, I like learned emotional intelligence, so much so that I'm a life guide. So it was actually setting in today, like, wow, how awesome that this is my first time as a panelist on a webinar for Life Guides, and it's International Women's Day. It just feels like really special, and I feel really connected to the movement of women rising in power and having rights.
Outstanding, outstanding. I will share one more thing. I know we were talking about it just a bit as we were prepping, but I was reading a comment from, I believe it's William Golding, an author, and I just want to share one piece of information that he shared, which is that women are far superior to men in so many ways. And one piece that he talked about in his quote was how if you give a woman a house, she'll turn it into a home. And so definitely shout out to my wife for creating a lovable home that we were joking in the background that if it was just me, it'd probably be, what'd you say, Jenna, bar soap? And
Yeah, bar soap and a hand towel and a bathroom.
yeah. And that's it, and maybe some Lysol would be nice there, but but nothing wonderful and large.
Thank you. I love that in his quote too. He was like, women are not equal to men. They are far superior.
I think he knows what he's talking about. I mean, let's be honest and put all the cards on the table. Women deal with so many things that kind of go invisible, that aren't even taken into account into how they show up in life. And it's unfair at times that the system, and if you want to use the term patriarchy, kind of creates these systems where it perpetuates, if you are a male, it's easier for you to move forward. So I want to call it the BS there, and call it the hypocrisy that happens, so that we can make things better for everybody. Because we know when you have female leaders and women leaders within your organization, you're going to flourish. So shout out to all of my, our senior team and just all the guys who support. So let's jump in. I know most of you were like, hey, I came here also for joy. But there is of course, a connection between the support of the feminine and the masculine and its connection to joy. So let's talk a little bit about the science of joy. And I want to pass this on to Sarah and just kind of get us started with this conversation.
Yeah. So one thing that we've learned from studying joy and what's going on in the brain when people are feeling joy versus feeling stressed is lower cortisol, more dopamine and serotonin and endorphins being released in the brain. So we call those the feel-good chemicals. If you are diagnosed with depression, you might be like out of balance with one of those. So today we're going to talk about ways to continue to create more dopamine, serotonin, endorphin. In laughter yoga, we call it dose. We had oxytocin in there. So laughter like gives you a full dose. The science to me is simple. It's those neurochemicals that stimulate joy. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Steve?
Well, okay. I'll add one thing, but then I want to hear from you, Jenna. And that is, and we'll pop this in the chat in just a moment. But I've talked a little bit about the Joy Summit. That is has been going on for a while now, and was supported by formerly Archbishop Desmond Tutu, may rest in peace, and the Dalai Lama. And they've been running these global summit. This global summit team has been running the Joy Project, so to speak, and it's a connection between Harvard and UC Berkeley and UC San Francisco, all these large organizations and schools who are just looking to improve joy. And one thing that's interesting about it is the preliminary results show that participants are around 23% happier after completing the Big Joy kind of protocol. So I wanted to share this because it's something that's come across my timeline with the research that we've been seeing, and so this is my support and uh, for the science of joy. But I want to hear from you, Jenna, just about what brings you joy, or even sometimes what we provide anecdotally can be supported or acknowledged by others as, hey, I can relate to that. And
Right.
so there is some connection there. So what about the science of joy, like entices you or brings you to happiness?
Yeah. Well, to share a personal little bit too. I didn't get to share this on the call, but my sister. So my sister's name is Joy, and it just fits her. So, and she's one of my closest human beings, and like, she's just all around, all encompassing, and we're like best friends, and we lean on each other. And so, I just feel like having her as a sister, and just having someone that just emulates and radiates that. And then we're from such a close knit family. But in terms of like, what I picked up early in the pandemic is Deepak Chopra was doing these little worldwide get online meditations, and when we were in a rough place, he talked about, how to experience joy. And a tagline that he said, it really hit and it landed with me. He says, sometimes joy is following your bliss. And so for an individual, what does bliss look like to you? And it's going to look like bliss to everyone's going to be different, whether you may think to hear the word bliss, but then it could be like happiness or joy or a good emotion or a feeling or a thought. And so then for you, others on the call, and then for me, it's just like, what brings you, how do you follow your bliss? You know what I mean? And if you don't know how, a tool could be something like, okay, let's start with music, so like, do I have a favorite song? And or if there's a song or something from your childhood, like just kind of reach back and then play that song and see what it does. If it creates some nostalgia, that could like light up joy, spark joy, and a feeling of happiness. I use music because I love music. Like music, any mood, like music. I believe music saves lives. I feel like music is just unites and brings people together. Globally, internationally. Like some of these artists, like if people don't even speak the same language, they put on a song, and that's where they, connect. So something is usually like start with like music. For some people, it might be just getting around nature to, let's go back to science. So being around nature, it could just, give off that dopamine and the serotonin levels. So nature, another example would be like laughter, call up that person if you have a friend or family or relative that makes you laugh, like start with laughter. Um, for the women, be around kids or your pets, your niece or nephew if you don't have any kids, and then just watch children, and that kind of could feed into some following your bliss, getting some of that joy and emotion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And especially with nature and yeah, like getting your feet on the earth and connected to the negative ions, just like pulling out all the excess like static that you may have picked up from even your technology or a stressful situation. We really have to take that time to ground. And that's actually a big deal in laughter yoga too, which is where a lot of my like maybe like official certified knowledge about on joy is through laughter yoga. And it's really important that we ground and meditate at the end because it can leave you so ecstatic. And so bliss isn't bliss is meant and joy are meant to be balanced, balanced in the body and centered because that's where we want to feel it. Bliss is to me and joy is a whole body sensation. It's like my body feels lighter. I could jump up and down maybe, or I just feel lighter and happier. It's not just a thought, it's a feeling. It can be related to thoughts as well, but it happens in the body.
For
Um,
sure.
something that Genesis actually says, who's another one of our lovely women guides and life guides on the self-love thing that she did, she was talking about just this simple reflective question: what would bring you more pleasure right now? What can you do right here without moving that would bring you more pleasure? Or maybe you need to move, but the point is that it's right here, right now, that it's within you. So what is that thing for you that's your bliss?
Wow. Just gonna sit in that for a moment and think about it. Sometimes it could just be taking a breath, taking a breath and kind of controlling what you can in the moment. And I sometimes don't like to do this, but I'm going to, and I'm going to take a quick turn and say, how do you deal with disturbances? Because there are things that come up that can challenge your joy. And I separate joy from happiness because I do believe that they are separate, and some of the literature supports that as well, that they are separate. And you can have continuous kind of persistent joy and fleeting and sometimes distant happiness, meaning you're happy for a few moments and then it goes away. But how do you deal with disturbances when something is potentially disturbing your joy, or you're having maybe even a bout of sadness?
I'll start. You know, it's going to happen. Life, we're not here to say, hey, joy, happiness is 24/7. You know what I mean? So I think it's having that high self-awareness, like, okay, we're going to have days that are going to be off, and it's that inner knowing, like, hey, um, I'm going through a tough time right now. There's a lot coming at me. I'm feeling overwhelmed, but I'm going to tell myself, like, internally, and then it's the inner scripts, right? Your inner scripts in dialogue feeding back into what's inside you. And maybe it's going to take that strength to just be like, I can overcome this, and this is not going to last forever. Like, whatever temporary moment, it may just be this hour of this day, but you know what? I'm going to reroute and I'm going to redirect, because, I'm going to kind of put on that resilience and get like that inner strength to kind of overcome, whether it be overwhelmed, like too many meetings, but then also know, hey, just like you would take a water break, or, there's like an intermission, I'm going to use that time to just pause, and I'm going to reroute, and I'm going to lean into what joy or bliss or calm. Cause even tranquility or like peacefulness could, to an individual, that means joy to them. That means bliss. So I think the key words would be like, okay, I'm going through this right now, but it's not going to last forever. But then there's going to be time for me to pause, and I'm going to tell myself the inner scripts to reroute and redirect. So then I could just have a moment, a 5-minute break. Like, as you would reach for a drink of water, I'm going to reach for some joy. I'm going to have a little joy pause and break, a mindful joy minute or 2 or 5 or 10.
Nice. Outstanding, Sarah. How about you?
I completely agree with rerouting and like picking new thoughts, creating a new story. I think gratitude is really foundational to joy. It's possible to be grateful for disturbances and for obstacles and for challenges. To me, one of the most obvious reasons to be grateful is because I get to learn. But those answers will change for whatever the disturbance and whatever the situation is. In a similar vein as taking a joy break, taking an intermission, I think in my personal experience, the sooner that I like feel whatever emotion is related to the disturbance, the sooner it goes away. It just seems like it really needs to move through my body, just like I enjoy letting bliss move through my body and joy. I've learned to enjoy letting grief move through my body. And I think that it serves its purpose, and grief and anger and disturbances are really important for how we view life and what we value too. Like anger and sadness show you what you don't like. And that's really important. It shows you when your boundaries are crossed, which is really prevalent for Women's History Month and International Women's Day today. So I wouldn't say to avoid those disturbances at all. Quite the contrary, actually. You could also consider doing an intermission to feel the disturbance. Like, okay, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to feel sad, and I'm just going to do it and like breathe or yell or bang the wall, like whatever. Like, don't hurt yourself too bad. But sometimes I will like bang on the floor. And if I like see myself in my head, like banging my head on the wall, then maybe I'll like head bang to music. But like I definitely have those thoughts. And they're just there to be seen and to be felt. And then they go.
It's
Okay, I
all
can dig
in
the
the
headbang.
coping. It's all in the coping, or maybe it's like journaling, like a coping, or how are you going to self-soothe through those rough times? Whether you need to get some aggression out, go for a walk, or just take a tennis racket and just kind of get that aggression and just bang it against the bed, or mattress to just get some of that energy out, or sprint, or karaoke your life out of a song to just release, like really release and purge. And then on the other side of that, you're just going to feel like a sense of freedom, right? And maybe more headspace, and maybe more breath techniques. Maybe you feel like more oxygen going through these moments.
I'm taking all of those and thinking about how I can apply, some of those in the moment. And I think it's important that we notice those disturbances, acknowledge them, and move through them. Sometimes we can be stuck, and it also can change our perception. And I think joy is also a perception game too.
Sure.
What do you expect to happen?
Sure.
For example, if you expect negativity, more than likely that's what you're going to continue with or continue to come across. So you share with me a little bit, and I'm going to ask this question to Jenna. Share with me a little bit about how your expectations shape your joy.
Ooh, I love that question. My expectation. You know what? I think, well, on a cellular level, there's some people like, what you either say, hey, this bottle is half full or half empty. I think the way I look at life is like, look how beautiful the bottle is. And it's half full and half. So I'm more like with the mindset and an energy, kind of like, look how beautiful the bottle is. And I understand not everyone has that. So I can speak from that lens, but I just know, like, when I am in those tough moments, like Sarah said, like, I just like I'm not going to deny it. I let it pass through me. And I just, and when I come on the other side, I feel like I have that awareness, Dave and Sarah, to just know, like, hey, what's my process? So I'm going to go through all the bumps, and like, what's the texture, for me? So then I'll apply things like, okay, I'm going through this rough time. On my sessions, when someone's having a hard time, and on the topic of joy, let's go into some other layers and textures. So to you, what would be the color of joy? For me, I'm saying my vibe is joy to me today is yellow, like vibrant yellow. Okay. So if joy had a texture, is it glossy? Is it shimmery? Is it sparkly? Is it fireworks? So for me, I'd be like it'd be fireworks, and it would have like a sparkly, visual thing. And maybe the texture would be like glossy, but I think that's in terms of expectations, I just know that it might be a different mode. It might be a different season, and it can look differently. And then for me, I'm a woman of variety. So if I have a method one day, I might be in the family of choosing kind of this, but then it might be like, oh, today it's going to be nature. I'm just going to be around nature and listen to a bird song, to get that joy. Or one day it might be just like the karaoke, or in the middle of this, I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm very pensive, but I'm going to just sit still, but I need to do something with my hands. So I'm just going to incorporate child play. Like, I'm going to go old school and get to that nostalgia. I'm just going to play with a bunch of Play-Doh and clay as I'm thinking through like moments of feeling overwhelmed. But if I just have like that in like from a touch, like, ooh, oh my God, the Play-Doh, it's going to give me nostalgia. Like, I remember I used to just love, I could play with Play-Doh, and then you go to the 99-cent store, like, or Dollar Tree, Play-Doh was like $1. And I went to the store, and I bought one for me and my little nephew, and he's a teenager, and I made him, just kind of like, here's one for you, and we were just playing with Play-Doh together, and just like, you didn't have to speak much. He was not on his device, our phones. So just like little things like that, or if it's painting or drawing or just doodling.
It's all unrestricted play is what I'm hearing.
Unrestricted, and it's totally
just going for it.
And unscripted. And sometimes in your head, if it's just too chaotic, things aren't legible. They're illegible. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, have your own path, or have a pathless path in the container of joy.
Sarah, I'd like to hear from you too about how your perceptions shape your joy.
Yeah, I'm going to share a little poem that I wrote about joy. It's about perception. Okay. So yeah, the imagery, it's like, it has imagery in the beginning, which kind of just helps for me, set the tone for like feeling the essence of joy. It's not to like any like beliefs on how joy came to be. It's just imagery. But it goes, one of the last times that the cosmos and the earth spoke, joy was sprinkled in between everything, in between the flowers and amongst the trees, even right on the skin of your knees. So that anywhere you look, you can see joy and you can find joy. And if you look around and you don't see joy, then look inside and give that part of you a hug, because it could be stuck energy, just looking for some love. It could also serve a deeper purpose, a deeper meaning, which we talked about with emotions, anger, and sadness being important. A lot of times, if you're not perceiving joy, it's inside of you that needs love.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. See the heart's flowing. That's wonderful. It is inside, isn't it? And sometimes we mistake that the external is what gives us joy. Like, I get this car, I'm going to be happy and I'll be joyful. And the science of happiness, and specifically the science of well-being, the recent course from Yale even presents that that's not true. We are horrible at gauging how happy we will be in the future when we get something. We may overestimate that when I get this car or I get this promotion, everything's going to be fine. That lasts for a short period of time. And then we kind of regress back to our baseline. And so that's why it's important, I think, to encourage a joyful baseline, because this is kind of where you're going to be, for a persistent period of time. So let's look a little bit deeper into that poem. I want to break down something that you said, which is not only that it's inside, but there's sometimes that it's that hurt that maybe needs attention. So how can someone hold those two things at the same time, meaning attention to hurt or pain that's going on, but then also wanting to cultivate joy? How can they manage that?
Well, the pain is what's keeping you from your joy. So if you really want to cultivate joy, then you'll look at the pain with joy, because you know that that's what's coming. You'll take it as like, oh, all I have to do is love this part of me. Oh, all I have to do is like cut sugar out of my diet and it'll help me feel better. Well, that's awesome, because I really want to feel better. So it kind of comes down to, do you really want it? How much do you want to feel joy? Or do you want to, we get comfortable in our pain. I get comfortable in my pain. So are you ready to like leave that comfort zone and experience something new? And it's like worth to say that in the beginning, it can feel really uncomfortable the first time you feel really joyful, or maybe you like land a promotion and you feel so excited. You might have a thought of like, oh, this is too good to be true, or it must be a mistake or something. We like want to doubt the things that trigger joy. Or even if we just like wake up happy one day and you haven't been happy in months, you might say, what's going on? Am I really awake? And you're awake, and life can be miraculous and you can perceive it as that. But it can be scary to do something new. But once you do it, then you've got that neurological pathway formed. And so it's not the path not traveled. It might be the neurological path less traveled, but there's a road now. And so you can continue to go down it. And I would be willing to bet that that road has been formed, and someday and some experience, you've experienced joy, happiness, bliss. You can kind of get a sense of joy from happiness. So maybe you can think of what used to make you happy and what used to bring you joy, and kind of go down that route to remember what it feels like. Even like right now in this moment, you can say like, what do I know about joy? What does my body know about joy? When was I feeling joy? Or have I seen anybody feel joy? Can I remember seeing children laughing on the playground? And you get a sense for what that feels like by watching it, and go from there, step by step.
I like what she said there, because it's sometimes when a person, let's say they're going through a real challenging time, they're in a tough spot, or they're in a place where not so good, it's not so vibrant, the place that they're in, they have trouble seeing the light. And sometimes they're so deep in it, maybe it takes a practice, a launch point, just asking a question, like, or they need to be asked a question to kind of spark or ignite like the tools and practices. And just for your launch point, it could just be like, okay, I'm having trouble. Where can I start? How? What's my how? And then it could just be like, okay, since I have trouble with my inner scripts, maybe if I put on a meditation, and maybe if I could listen to some daily affirmations, that would be my launch point and start, because then that will be incrementally. If I just listen to a beautiful voice giving me and be in the receiving mode, because you're significant and you matter and you are enough and you are plenty, like those type of scripts, and then listening to these affirmations, it's gonna like lift you up incrementally. At least, let's say if you're your sadness is like a 10. Well, if you listen to some daily affirmations, maybe you can just minimize and just get it down to a 7 on a scale. It's not to just, we're not trying to get it to happen overnight, but maybe just incrementally, little doses at a time, then it'll compound.
And I think
No
that
doubt.
is how we really build a foundation for it too. And to find out what really does bring us that internal sense of joy that isn't dependent on anything outside of us, where you can feel joyful before you get the promotion or before you buy the car. It's like you already have it and you are already that. You're worthy of it right here, right now.
Absolutely.
You are worthy of that.
Toast to all of that.
Yes, you are. Definitely cheers to that. And when we talk about expectations, some people, we all have different traditions. And so one thing I've come to learn is just to honor all sacred traditions, because people approach things differently. For example, Jenna, you've just provided so many different options, a variety of how you can get back into that flow. And I want to talk a little bit about how life flow, not just the flow state where things fall away and, you're really killing it while you're coding or, writing a paper, but life flow where that can be consistent and persistent. I'm interested to hear, if you noticed, anything from your life that's helped you with life flow.
Sure, sure. Last year I went through last year, 2022 was amazing. I did some big, big things. I sent my daughter, my only daughter, to college. And so I dropped her off in Hawaii. I dropped her off in Hawaii, but I was telling, my big Filipino family, like, I'm going to go away to college too. Cause like, I'm in like new season, new cast, like, I feel like I kind of look at, like a Netflix movie. So like I sent my daughter off to college, and then I was like, I'm free. It was like bittersweet. Like that was like an emotional thing to do. But then it was like, I'm going to go away to college too. So I actually went away to Portugal for 2 months because I wanted to be as a scouting trip and to explore. And so before that, I'm deep in my faith and my spirituality. And so my cousin would invite me to this church activity and function. And so I just had these people kind of pray over me and kind of give me some spiritual and like faith-based guidance. And so I was really leaning into it. And then as I was in my explorer, pathway, and so following that, like, I just feel like with my faith and spirituality, and knowing that for me, my own personal story, that my higher power was going to be on this exploratory trip with me to Portugal. I really felt that. So when landing into Lisbon in Portugal, big capital of Portugal, I just felt this sense of like, it felt right. It felt joyful. I wasn't nervous. Like I knew like, this is kind of my next horizon. It's like a Netflix series, new season, new cast. And so that's how it kind of showed up for me. And then in my excursion and through that whole experience of 2 months, like it was the most amazing and incredible experience. So it's like that unknown and uncertainty, and what can like unearth for you. So who knew, like San Diego, like my daughter's my home, and then San Diego is where my family is. But it's like through that experience, what was surprisingly shocking is like Portugal's my spot, so much so that I'm going to go back there for a month in April. And so it's kind of like how, for me, it's like I'm blending life, travel, and then meaningful work projects.
Right. And that's helping you
Life
build
guides,
that life flow.
a sense of expansiveness and expansion. And it's just like the unearthing of like this next level, Jenna. Her like my own iPhone, 15 version. So that's kind of how it showed up, and just leaning into the no. But then again, for my personal story, it was like the faith-based spirituality, and then and personal individual growth, because I'm a risk taker. I knew that was like what was next, my next big thing.
Question. All right, Sarah. Seems like you're eager to share.
Is the question like, yeah, I forgot the question.
So the question is more, well, actually, let's take a pivot. More of a question for you is to support us and maybe providing some practices on how to continue to cultivate joy. I think, just from what we were talking about earlier on, before we jumped on the call, I'd like to hear about some of the practices that you found helpful and that you can even support others in learning and growing with.
Yeah. So laughter yoga is going to be the first thing that I say, because that's what I've used the most. And that's what I like share with the world. I had a laughter club. So every week we were meeting up, and I'm not kidding, I would be driving there, like feeling like I was driving to church. Like I was like, why do I feel like I'm 9 driving to church with my mom again? I was so happy and excited to go, just like I used to be whenever I was younger. And it was that community and that connection with people. And there are free laughter yoga clubs online every single day that we can throw into the chat with the times, and you can click the link and find the Zoom link if you want to get connected with an online community. There's also clubs in over 120 countries, and I don't know how many like states and cities in the United States, but you can find laughter yoga in person too. But laughter yoga is at the end just a tool. Laughter itself is really good medicine, and you don't need anything that I'm going to tell you about laughter yoga to laugh. In fact, they'll actually share another link for you where you can just call a number and laugh twice a day. And that's just laughing. And so your body actually can't tell the difference between real and fake laughter. You're still going to get more oxygen. You're still going to trigger the dose, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, even just from smiling. But more so from laughing and like really exhaling and like getting that air out of your diaphragm, the stale air. So more oxygen, brain happy chemical levels go up. So laughter is the first practice, and laughter yoga combines childlike playfulness exercises with breathing and grounding. So it's a really wholesome way to exercise. It's really good for the heart. So that's the first practice that I would share. And then laughter yoga also teaches 4 pillars of joy. And these are things that are said to incite joy from the inside out that aren't dependent on anything. And so I already shared one, which is laughing. The second one is singing. The third is dancing. And the fourth is playing. And I think I've trained with 2 people. I think my first trainer added jumping, added a 5th one. So those are things like that are said to just incite joy. And for me, it works. Dancing and singing, I love. It brings me joy. And I would add playing with my friends, just like being silly. Me and my friends will we do this in laughter yoga too, but we've taken it just into day to day. We'll like speak gibberish to each other and just, I don't know, just be silly and weird and funny. And it brings a lot of joy and connection. So I would also say that creating healthy connections and people that you feel really safe with can bring a lot of joy. It's where you don't need the external, but it really helps to have a good environment.
Oh yeah, you have to have a community, and I think it's also important, to mention about the guides community and how we're supported with joy too. One thing you said earlier, Jenna, which I love, is just don't think of life guides as, oh, I've gone through something horrible or a life event, now I need to contact somebody. Like even in times of joy is what you said, Jenna, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When things are going amazingly well in your life, like share that out. Like just like when you have that special event or news happen to you, like call LifeGuide and be like, oh my God, I just got this news. Or like, oh my God, last weekend, look what happened. Like whether
we're here to celebrate.
We're here to celebrate and support you. We're your bridge line to all that support system when things are thriving and when you're flourishing. And then just back to the tracking back to practices for those who might just be like back to back to back with meetings, like how you would schedule a fitness class, how you schedule a lunch break, put it on your calendar or put it like on your phone, put it as your wallpaper, like time out for joy, like put it in somewhere where you're going to actually carve out and protect that space so you can fit it in, incorporate it into your life as a wellness, like you would do for working out, like physical. Just know that for your joy workout, emotionally, spiritually, all of that, put it on your calendar so that it takes you away and it just kind of reroutes you in different space so that you can come back to those afternoon meetings, in a different like happiness state, mood state.
Mhm. Yeah, I've had a
Thinking
client
about it.
tell me to do laughter yoga on their lunch break, and so in their car, we just laughed and did different laughter exercises. We like did a little laugh like a mouse, and like a mouse finding the cheese, and then like a mouse getting the cheese taken away. And laughter can be used to process emotions too. We're talking about disturbances, and we do like sad laugh and angry laugh and awkward laugh, and whatever other laugh you can think of. It's a good like um, vein to
Yeah.
take your emotions through.
It's a good connector too. That's one thing we were talking about music earlier, kind of being that unifying force, regardless of your language. I've even heard a recent story about there being medicine in the music, where you'll hear something and you just feel better because there was an intention put in it. And that also connects to what Jenna was saying about the intention of making time for yourself, making time for joy. Even listing on that calendar as hold for a quick reset. That could be your 30 minutes where you engage in joy practices within a community, connect with life guides, whatever option or practice you use, but making it an intentional part of your day. Otherwise, it's just going to be something that you'll say, it'll be nice to have, but I don't have time. But we always make time for the things we want or we believe is attainable.
Right.
Exactly. And when we're talking about the science of joy and getting those chemicals in the brain flowing too, that surely you've heard this before. Eating healthy, resting well, having time to play and with your friends, and sleeping, eating, sleeping, and being with your friends.
And play, just incorporate play, because once you're incorporated in the space of play, that's already going to be, you're going to be in the space of joy. So however you like to play, what that means for you,
Yeah, the more like conditions we can get to be in the ideal, like the more we can exercise and relax, the more likely you are to feel joy. But then it's quite possible too that you're not going to feel joy until you do make that life-changing decision. You're working out and eating well, and you're also meditating and thought training and creating the new neural pathways, but you're going to a soul-sucking job every day, then you might have to quit that job to find your bliss, follow your bliss.
We were talking about follow your bliss. So let's touch on I like touching on both sides of the coin, just trying to be equal here. But when we talk about following your bliss, I think it's important to state that if your bliss is causing harm to someone or if someone else's bliss is causing harm to you, that maladaptive behavior can, support with all types of future challenges that can come down the line. So I want to make sure to put that little bit of a disclaimer out. Don't feel that your bliss is contingent on someone else's happiness or your joy is contingent on somebody else's happiness. It's a completely thing.
Yeah, I would add that like true joy and true bliss from an empowered state doesn't infringe on anybody else's rights or property or bodies or anything. In fact, it probably lifts them up. Whenever you walk into a room, bliss and joy are light and free, and so people are going to vibe off of that. And they're not, honestly, like some people kind of get triggered whenever I'm so happy sometimes. Even like one of my friends was like, "You're like annoyingly happy." And I'm like, that's a backhanded compliment. But I'm like fine with it. But in general, bliss like is going to lift other people up. And whenever you're really in a place of joy, it doesn't take away from anybody. So if you see, it's not keeping up with the Joneses. It's not instant gratification. In fact, it uplifts people.
They're probably wondering, Sarah, like, there maybe your state is so foreign to them. So there, it was more, yes, it was a backhanded comment, but then she's probably, it was probably, and also they were in admiration of you, because a lot of times when they're saying that, they're like, I don't even know how to get to that level, when I'm just at the grocery store at like Sprouts or something, it's just like taking the time to look someone, the cashier, in the eyes, and just in the transaction, I'm just like looking at them saying, how are you today? Like, and then, just kind of be like, thank you. Just like taking that extra moment, 30 seconds. And then people are always like, oh my God, thank you. You made my day. Come back again tomorrow. So you just never know what people are going through. So like, even if you're just kind of like throwing a little bit of a sentiment where it's joyful, and just, giving people a little bit of a like light and smile and a burst of, vitamin J, joy. In my case, Jenna. More meaning. So yeah, so it's like we need more joy in the world, because I think people forget, or they get so stuck, or they're looking at the wrong content. So maybe the homework would be like, break away from what, the things that are not joyful, and start searching up content that is joyful.
Absolutely. And being intentional with it.
Sure. Be intentional. You are what you browse. So browse joy, search up joy,
And gratitude too. I think what you were just talking about is gratitude. People feel grateful when you see them, when you're like making eye contact. And, eye contact may not be the thing for everyone, but at least, saying thank you or doing small acts of kindness, that can increase your joy as well.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I think that following your joy and your bliss is an act of self-love too. And that takes a lot of courage and willpower for everybody. And then also for women, because we're really taught to be people pleasers and put our boundaries aside. So just encouragement to everybody listening to love yourself and do what that means for you. I think your passions are engaged whenever you're following your bliss. And that can be different day to day. I'm also a woman of variety, so I don't have like a consistent practice to feel joy, but I oftentimes find myself with my friends playing music or laughing, watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Favorite.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's Always Sunny is they've got, the gang has gotten better. I'll just say that the gang has gotten they are better. Oh sweet D. Okay. One other thing, since we're talking about pop culture and TV and film, is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know if anyone's seen that movie, but in that movie, I'm not going to spoil it. And believe me, even if I tried, I couldn't spoil everything in the movie. It's complex. But one of the main characters is Joy, and I thought about it after like the fourth watch, that the mother was searching for her joy throughout the multiverse, and it really did touch me in a special place, because it's something that we all have to do. We all have to find our joy in the darkness, find our joy when things are going great, find our joy when things are horrible, but we know that it's not going to last, and we can be here for a moment and then pass through it. So again, kind of working through those disturbances. Just wanted to share that with you.
No, it reminds me of a quote I brought today by Thich Nhat Hanh. I think that's the pronunciation.
We're going with it. Keep going.
Sometimes your smile is the source of your joy, and sometimes your joy is the source of your smile. So to me, that's saying create it for yourself if it's not happening naturally, if it's not being triggered by the environment.
Outstanding. So as we start to wind down here, I want to open up, if there are any questions for our two guide panelists, please pop them into the chat. Over the last couple of minutes here, we'd love to answer any questions that you have. I love the way this conversation went. I learned so much from both of you just in this little bit of time. So thank you. We'll get into the rest of the thank yous towards the end. But if there are any questions, please post them in the chat. To the people who are watching in the future, take some time to cultivate your joy. Find out what it is that actually brings you joy. And sometimes the things that makes you happy are short term, and anything can kind of break that happiness, even though you think once you get it, you're going to be golden. So consult. I think consultation and talking to others is an important piece. You talked about community. Both of you talked about the importance of community and having someone that you can just connect with and say, hey, I'm feeling this way and I'd like to be heard because maybe I'm not being heard at home, or maybe I'm not being heard, in my team, and I just need to bounce an idea off. Can you share real quick while we're waiting for the questions here, Jenna, just about your experience as being a guide and having people, come to you and just look for that level of community and support.
Well, I was saying on our call before, or when it was just a few of us, shout out to the sales, um, and the email campaigns, because just to call out something fresh and recent in February, our wonderful clients, the email campaigns or the in-house HR people leaders. I found for my experience, my guide experience in February, it was a nice wave of new client members coming from our new company clients. And so just I'm so grateful and for the companies that are really encouraging their employees to reach out and just take a look at the platform. So I'm so grateful. I appreciate the abundance and the wave, but it was just so refreshing to literally be on a call with Linda, who's my life guide leader, and then our one-on-ones that happen monthly. And then right when we hung up, I had two members pick me as a life guide. I just felt so honored. And then for me, this work is just it just fits like a glove. I feel like um this is such a good match. It's in alignment with my personal values and who I am as a being. But what brought me here 2 years ago, I was actually my mom's own personal life guide. She fell into severe depression in 2019 fall before the pandemic hit. So I kind of put the corporate Jenna on hold and just put family first and modeled that. My dad and I did the heavy lifting. Again, we come from a huge family. So there's a village. There's truly a village of us, but the day-to-day heavy lifting was coming from me and my dad. And so just that's what brought me here, being my mom's own personal life guide, being her light and her beacon. And so as I was, being her caretaker, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I still had one hand in it, and that's where I came across Derek, who's our president. He was moderating a panel. The topic was incredible. And then from there, just a LinkedIn panel, just watching that, I was just like,
shout out to Derek.
Shout out to Derek, president. And then the fact that it said life guide, because I actually resonate. I prefer the word life guide versus, coach. Coach is, the, search engine optimization. You always have to put coach, but I feel like modern and today, I feel like guide, advisor, mentor. I just feel like guide just really hits well. It's just more. I just resonate with that.
It's just different, it's just different,
and it's all encompassing, and it just blends better for me than the word coach. Maybe because I'm always like, I like the new stuff, and it's time to maybe break away from industrial terminology. And I welcome the news.
Oh yeah, the corporate lingo is still stuck in many of us. Yeah. I mean, how many of us have said circle back within the last week? I'm just joking. If you have, I'm not judging you. I do it too. I do it too.
I like to say loop back or
U-turn. Loop back. Okay. Yeah. We're all working on it. We do have a question. So thanks so much, Alicia. So we have a question. Any advice on how to use journaling for joy? I like this question.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Maybe I have advice. My first, I have like two things to say. The first is that I'm sure there is a way, and I have one idea, but I would also encourage and just push back a little bit and say that joy is in the body, and that is where we're looking for it. Now, granted, the mind affects the body and the body affects the mind. So if I was to be journaling on joy, maybe I would write a new story or a story where I felt joy. Or maybe I would just write joy or like draw it and color it in and put colors that I feel like are joy to me. But yeah, those are my ideas so far.
For me, I'm an empath. And so I absorb environment, and I just like all my senses are already heightened. So if I were to journal, I journal. I like to doodle. I like to do like 3 things I'm grateful for. Like I do like just the 3 things. If I don't write it down, it's okay, because then I'm thinking about it, or I'll just talk it into my phone or Or so I always like, again, girl of variety. So I'm always doing it a little different each day and then the time of day. But for me, if it's the environment, so maybe you find a spot where, again, if it's nature or by a lake, or you need to see the panoramic views, or by a playground and hearing little kids and their laughter, or just of watching little kids, because that young age, they just have that theta and the delta, like it's just like natural to them. So for me, I would just kind of submerge myself in the environment and my surroundings, and then have my pen or my phone device for the journaling, and then just be super reflective and just go inside, like just really reach inside and just kind of meditate on what comes to you. And there's no right or reason. You could just have like a nice, cloud of words, and then you formulate the story or the image, or it could be your next vacation and destination, because you're
Yeah.
putting joy first at the top of the list. And what joy may be to you might be, I need to explore. I need to take myself out of the surroundings and have that high sense of awareness. Like, you know what? In this team, like no one's really joyful. So then really extract yourself and go and seek joy and find where you can be around joy. There's a book, forgive me, I'm human. It's called Joy Seeker. I don't know off the top of my head the name of the author, but the actual title of the book is called Joy Seeker. So something to just reference and flip through, or just find on YouTube, like the summary and get the highlights for that. So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, maybe like writing what joy is to you, or what you imagine joy feeling like, or what it does feel like to you, or what would bring you joy. Back to the pleasure from our other guide, Genesis question: what would bring you more pleasure right now? What would bring you more joy right now? And then write about that as if it's real, and feel that, and get excited while you're writing, and allow that excitement to come up. It's safe to feel.
Nice. Well, we're about to close. I'll share one quick thing, which is what you focus on expands. So if you are journaling, one thing that we do in our home is and this is recent, so I'm not like proclaiming we've been doing this for years. But we got a Moleskin, I guess it's called, the journal, like empty pages. And we sit it on the coffee table, and everyone is supposed to write in it every day. Whatever you want, whatever page you want, whatever you want to write, like no structure. But we only preface it with whatever you write will expand. So be careful what you write in there. And it's just fun to see, the kids write in things like, I'd like to go out to eat more. Okay, well, I guess that's going to expand, but it's just fun things like that, which you can do with the family, and all have opportunities to share with each other. But thank you both
I have
for
really
being.
trope
Oh,
too.
go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
It's like the last on my notebook. We like didn't come up naturally, but it's a quick, easy trope to remember. And it's, if you can't change your environment, change your mind. And if you can't change your mind, change your environment.
It's just that easy, right? It's just. Oh man, this has been so fun. I feel joyful. All right, yes.
Yeah.
It's gonna be yeah. I feel happier than I was a little earlier, but consistent and joyful. So thank you so much for this team. Thank you everyone for being here today. For people watching out in the future, good luck to you. I hope you're having a joyful day, and continue to love yourself.